The other day I was trolling the internet like I do, and I happened across heavensgate.com. I don't know if you guys remember this death cult from the 1990s, but they were sensationalized by the media when they all committed suicide together. Now, I realize that the term death cult might be offensive to some people, but I want to remind everybody that that's literally what they are by definition. A relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister. So even if it wasn't a cult to them, it was most definitely a cult to everybody else. And they killed themselves, so I feel that the term death cult fits pretty well. Anyways, I was fascinated by the whole thing, so I figured I'd put together a little documentary about it. So let's get started. Mostly the information I got about Heaven's Gate came from their initiation tapes, their exit videos, and a few other things like that. I've also been in contact with one of their remaining members. For privacy reasons, I'm not actually going to show any of the emails, but I'll talk about them a little bit here. Before the group committed suicide, they asked some people to stick around to maintain the website, emails, intellectual property, and media coverage. According to this person, there are still a few of them out there that were, quote, students in T and Do's, quote, class. But since there isn't what they call an older member on Earth anymore, which is somebody that came from space to teach people, there can't be any more classes, so there can't be any more new members. Here's a quote from the email. We met T and Do at a meeting in 1975 at Waldport, Oregon, and joined immediately. What they understood and explained answered all the questions we had about life and beyond. Now, I'm going to get into who T and Do are in a minute, but let's just say they're the founders of it for now. So, this person joined the group in 1975 and stayed until 1997, when everybody committed mass suicide. Before committing suicide, this person was asked to, quote, remain behind to manage the media and website. To this day, 40 years after joining and 20 years after their mass suicide, this person still believes it. That is dedication. So let's move on to T and Do. I made reference to them a minute ago as the founders. They called themselves T and Do from the musical scale. Do was a man named Marshall Applewhite, born in 1931 and died during their mass suicide in 97, of course. And T was his wife, Bonnie Nettles, born in 1927 and died in 1985. This is where I want to add a disclaimer. A lot of this information was really hard to find, but I did my best. It's about as accurate as I could possibly get it. The story surrounding his time in a mental institution is shaky, but everything else is pretty accurate. So, Do, or Marshall Applewhite, went through a series of divorces that eventually made him crack. He ended up in a mental institution for a short time, where he met a nurse there named Bonnie Nettles. He said he felt like he had known her for a long time and concluded that they had met in a past life. She claimed that their meeting had been foretold to her by extraterrestrials, convincing him that he had a divine assignment. Now, that bit about their interactions after they met came from a book called Legitimating Suicide, Heaven's Gate, and New Age Ideology by James R. Lewis. That part is pretty accurate, and from here on out it's pretty accurate. But it was really hard to find sources on the institution, the divorce, and how they actually met. Needless to say, everything that happened here was a huge breach of ethics all the way around. T, or Bonnie Nettles, ended up dying in 1985. Do saw this as passing into the evolutionary level above human, which is their term for her soul boarding a spaceship and flying to the literal heavens. Apparently, some specific location in the universe. A few times in the video, when Do talked about T, he got very defensive and aggressive for no apparent reason. I'm sure we can all guess why. In their initiation tape, Do claims that he is Jesus and T was Do's father, God incarnate. However, their bodies, which they simply called vehicles, were human. They were just the souls of God and Jesus. That's why they didn't perform miracles or anything like that. So here's a short clip of Do claiming to be Jesus.
We'll title this tape Planet Earth About to be Recycled. Well, I, in all honesty, must acknowledge my father. My father is not a human father. Well, the name Christ might be a little confusing, or the name Jesus, because the name Jesus, of course, was the name given to the body that mind that was indeed from the kingdom of heaven came. So the one or the mind that was in Jesus, what? That mind is in me? You'll have to decide that for yourself. I must admit that I am here again, that I'm here saying exactly the same thing that I said then. Well, I know what I just said. I said that I am the return of the Son of my Father.
That wasn't even a dodgy claim. He straight up just said that he was Jesus. Couldn't be more clear than that. And that's not all. Here's another clip from the same video. Check this one out.
I'll tell you something that's even more remarkable. My Father came with me this time. Came in the early 70s, took on a human form, an adult human form, helped me get in an adult human form in the early 70s.
He's talking about his dead wife, Bonnie Nettles, or T. Now, I'd like to go over some of the common cult markers I discovered with this group. If you notice, Doe stares straight into the camera the entire time. He supposedly did that in person, too. Never broke eye contact. That's one thing cult leaders commonly do. He also uses buzzwords a lot. Evolutionary level above human, in reference to heaven. Kingdom of heaven, vehicle, in reference to bodies. Space alien, and so on. Also, he had the cult members isolate themselves from family members and friends. He gave everybody a new name. They no longer went by their name by birth. Some of their new names were Janodi, Rakoti, Olodi, Devoti, Jamodi, and others. As far as I can tell, they all have 3 consonants followed by ODY. And of course, we know that 3 consonants never go side by side. There has to be a vowel in there, or people won't know how to pronounce it. So, yeah. Thanks for that, dickhead. Speaking of dicks, some of the men chose to cut their dicks off. It's hard to tell why they did that, but the cult believed that they were once space aliens that didn't have a gender. I guess the guys were trying to get back to their original form. I don't know what the girls did. In March of 1997, 15 of them ground up sleeping pills, mixed it into applesauce, and ate it. There were 39 total, so the remaining 24 went down the row and tied plastic bags to each sleeping person's head in an effort to suffocate them. The following day, a group of 15 more did the same thing. I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe that Doe was the last one to go. Who tied the bag for him? Maybe it was God. Probably not. There was a surviving member that didn't commit suicide. He also called in the anonymous tip that they had done the deed. Now, before they killed themselves, they all made exit videos of themselves talking about leaving Earth for this spaceship. I'm going to play a few clips from these videos. Bear in mind that we're basically watching these people's suicide videos, because within a couple of days of filming these, 39 people were found dead in Doe's mansion, including Doe himself. Before closing the video out, I just want to say that these people come across as very peaceful. I know they committed suicide, but it wasn't malicious, it was of everybody's own free will, and it wasn't in the name of some lost cause. They genuinely believed that they were being transported to a spaceship, returning from their away mission. Their beliefs were very obviously heavily influenced by Star Trek, which was pretty popular at the time. And as is standard in cults, I don't think Doe was even taking their money to make himself rich. I really think he was an honest, nice guy that was trying to help people, and he really believed this stuff. Of course, that's what he wanted me to think. Maybe I'm just as big a sucker as the rest of them for believing his intentions were good. I'll probably make a part 2 sometime in the near future, assuming the Earth doesn't get recycled first.
I don't know, I think my constant asking long before I entered the class was the key. Constant begging for the real facts, the real truth, as how to get out of this world and grow beyond it, and rise above it, and leave it behind, both self and this world.
And I'm honored to be to be a part of this. I'm a student, I'm a member of the away team, I know that.
And one last thing we'd like to say is 39 to beam up.